can't do the hello. It's in there. It's just not ready to come out in the world yet. But it's in there. It's just not in the world. This is episode 275 of The Fat Squirrel Speaks. I am your host, Amy Beth, also known as The Fat Squirrel on Ravelry and The Fat SQRRL on Instagram. How are you? I hope you're doing well. I hope you're doing okay. I hope your legs aren't too tired from treading water. That's my hope for you. Oh my goodness. So thank you so much for your patience. My schedule has not been good. Yeah, I think you're understanding. So thank you for your patience. I know I'm behind on recording, but I'm going to say it to you now so that I will be sure to do it. By Tuesday, I expect to have a bonus episode out for you. Just a garden, like tour and hello and just casual. You know, I'm not going to dust. It's just going to be like this. Like, you know, like what we do. We sit at the dining room table. We listen to the train whistle. And we just have a chat. It'll be great. So, yeah, we'll do that. Look. Right? I can't believe I've never done flowers before. What was I thinking? What? Now I won't lie to you. There was a moment last week. It's been a couple of weeks, y'all. I know. Like, I'm so grateful that we are all still in good health and so grateful that we're working, so grateful for so many things, but it has been a rough couple of weeks. Okay, also, I forgot to say this. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to kind of like focus my thoughts through this podcast, to have some level of interaction with you through reading comments, and just feeling like your good, positive energy in general. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate your participation, and I appreciate you motivating me to work on myself, to work on what I'm putting out in the world, and I just want to tell you that I'm really, really appreciative of that. It's really so helpful right now to feel like that I'm making some sort of impact in the world, and even if that's like no matter what that is, like as long as it's something good, I'm really thankful that you have given me this opportunity to do that, and I just thank you so much. This really has meant so much to me, and reading your comments is so. Anyway, I give you a fat lady squishy hug right in your face. Also, you can have pie. Alright. Where was I going with that? Oh, in that rough couple of weeks, we had some gardening. I had some pretty not big. I had some gardening issues. And I really had that like intense, like, I'm just gonna raise this thing. And because, you know, don't you just, I just feel the need to burn something to the ground. The patriarchy is not taking light as quickly as I would like. So maybe my garden. But I made it through. I made it through that. But one of the nice things about that brief moment of just like, I'm done, was that I was like, and then I'll just plant 1,000,000 flowers. I'll have my own little cutting garden. And I'm not saying that I won't still in the future, but maybe I will. Maybe I'll just go for it. But I think I'm gonna let the vegetables go. Like, I'm gonna let them try to recover from some mistakes that I made, and hopefully like it'll be okay. But if nothing else, there's always a cutting garden in my future. Tova had fantasies this week of, can we discuss? This is going into shenanigans, I guess. This week's episode will contain shenanigans Shenanigans of the mind. Are we too close? Do we need to back up a little bit? I feel like my face is a lot of my face. It'll contain shenanigans of the mind. It'll contain some shameless self-promotion at the end. I'll have a pre-order going up on Friday, like as in the 17th, as in tomorrow. As in, I was supposed to do this podcast last week. Anyway, it'll be a pre-order, so it'll be there for a week at least. And it will contain knitting and crochet. I know there's actual knitting this week. What? A knitting podcast with knitting content? Just a few minutes. It'll contain maybe some spinning talking. So yeah, it'll have that stuff in it. Let's get into it. I'll have patron prizes next week for patrons of the podcast, whether that's via Patreon or PayPal or Ko-Fi. I appreciate your support so much, especially as I just paid first and second quarter's estimated taxes this week. Thank you so much. By the way, I hope that didn't sound like I was being sarcastic. I'm serious. Thank you so much. So yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so where this was going. Okay, so as I was fantasizing about just burning the garden to the ground, my daughter also, okay, so we'll back up even more. You know, I'm a non-linear kind of gal. We got peaches this week before last. Have you done the peach truck? I've never done the peach truck before. Last year, I was super tempted to do the peach truck, but it was going to happen, I think, when I, like, right before I went to the Super Summer Knit Together. By the way, subset of, like, the 7 subsets we're on. I'm all about the parentheticals. Super Summer Knit Together is totally having a virtual marketplace this weekend. Are you excited? I'm pretty excited. Another crafty girl and Jelby have some sort of gnome thing cooked up, and maybe I should have told you. I'm telling you. Do you hear me being like, maybe you should back and edit that out so that you get the gnome? No, it's okay. It's okay. Anyways, so there's going to be a virtual marketplace. You can find more information at Super Summer Knit, if you just Google Super Summer Knit Together, which is a retreat held in Nashville by the Knit Girls. And of course, this year it's not in person. But there's going to be a virtual retreat. I mean, a virtual marketplace, which is very exciting. I just found that the Young's Dairy wool gathering will also be canceled this year. So I hope that they do a virtual marketplace. That would be awesome. But I haven't heard anything more about that yet. Okay, now we're coming back up a couple levels. So usually I didn't get the peaches last year, even though the peach truck has amazing advertising. But my mother did buy 100 pounds of peaches last year. I was like having the like, oh, it's at a really busy time because I'm getting ready for SSK. And oh, they are, you know, it's not the most it is not the cheapest. I hate to use that word, but it's not the cheapest to purchase, because like when the peach season is on, like at your neighborhood grocery store, you can usually find peaches for like $1 a pound. And so it's not the cheapest option. So I kind of went back and forth, but I decided this year that I was going to purchase them. So I did, and we went to pick them up. We had like an afternoon out. We went to the garden center, which was very exciting, and got a couple little plants. And then we went to pick up our peaches. And so where we were going, it was actually like a bowling alley, like the pickup, which was very exciting. So we turn on, there's like all this traffic, but it's very close to like our loop road, like one of its, you know, fairly good intersection exits, whatever you want to call it. And it was like it was like 3 o'clock, so it was getting closer to rush hour. So there's a bit of traffic there, but I thought, you know, it was just probably normal traffic. Also, one of our major interstates has been closed for construction. So I was like, it's probably just that, you know. And then we got closer and we to turn onto the road that we were going to, that the peach truck would be directly off of. There was a lot of traffic on it, but I thought, when I was working for the man, thank you, everybody. Thank you for not making me work for the man anymore. Thank you. We turned, so I knew that that road was busy because for a brief amount of time, Tova had her daycare off of that road, and it was always busy at rush hour. And I just thought, wow, it seems a little extra busy, but okay. And Tova was like, what is all this traffic? And I said, I explained to her, I said, it's not for the peaches. That'd be so crazy. And then we get closer and there's like police officers directing traffic. And I'm like, what? Like, is there a wreck or something? And I'm like, or is there construction? And again, I assure her that this is not for, it was for the peaches. The bowling alley has a huge parking lot. Like, I don't even know why the bowling alley's parking lot is that big. But it has a huge parking lot, and it was packed. Now, we were able to find parking fine. It was no big deal. But there was a line of, there had to be at least 100 people in line. And it wasn't like I got there at like the wrong time. It's like, when sometimes you go into a line and you're like, oh, I'm the last person in this line and I'm the last person forever. Like nobody's coming in behind me. No, the line remained the same length like the whole time I was there. And now it moved super fast because they had done pre-order. So all you had to do was like show your little QR code and they were like, oh yes, here's your box of peaches or whatever you got. But crazy. Like it was literally a point where I was in the car and I was like, I should have brought water. Like it was very hot. And I looked at the line and I thought, this is going to be awful. And it moved so fast. I don't think I was in line for more than 10 minutes, but it was crazy. And I was really, like, it was this very surreal moment of like, these people are all getting at least 25 pounds of peaches. Some people had like little hand trucks where they were getting multiple. Anyway, it was very exciting. We brought our peaches home. I thought for sure I was going to be canning peaches because I was like, the kitchen's still kind of a wreck because the cabinets are still not done. But that's okay. But it's a little bit of a wreck. It's always a little bit of a wreck. But when you're canning it, you need cleanliness. I need cleanliness and order. Like I just have to have that. And so I was literally like, oh gosh, I don't know how I'm going to can these peaches. I'm going to have to like just kick everybody out of the house. I don't know, to get this place in order. Apparently we're just going to eat all the peaches. And by we, I mean basically me. Because these people don't even eat peaches really. Tova has eaten a few. And then I baked one thing. And then, so this is, we're back to where I was 20 minutes ago. Thank you for being with me. So then Tova's like, I'm going to make a pie. And I'm like, okay. She made a pie. I can't remember what pie she made, but she made a delicious pie, like a fruit pie, not too long ago. And it was really lovely. And I was super impressed with her crust. So I said, yeah, that sounds amazing. Please do so. So she made a pie completely by herself. All I did was help her with the skinning of the peaches. Now, I personally do prefer nectarines in all but one aspect. I like the flavor of the nectarine better. I like the texture of the nectarine better. I like the fact that you don't have to peel the nectarine better. However, as far as I know, there are no freestone nectarines. And so I do really love a cling-free peach. Like, especially when you're processing. I know that I can just cut around the pit, but it's just, I don't know, I don't enjoy it. Because it's like all smushy by the point that you're actually cutting around the pit, right? Well, not smushy, but it's getting there. It's slippery, especially when you're trying to process lots of them. But I will say that I do really prefer nectarines. But one of the nice things about getting these peaches like all at once is like, you can't go to the grocery store and buy 25 pounds of peaches, well, not at least my grocery stores. So it's really super convenient if you are somebody who wants to process them to have like a quantity that large that is going to kind of get ripe at relatively a pretty tight window for processing. So we're getting more at the finish line to actually can. I'm a mess, y'all. So that's another benefit of this, is that, again, if you are planning especially to process them, it is nice to be able to get that many that are consistent. And boy, in that box of 25, not one of them had like a tiny scrape on it, like maybe when it was being put in the box. That's it. Like all the other ones were perfect. Like how does that even happen? So they were excellent quality, and again, having them all ready to just go at the same time was an amazing treat. So she decided to make the pie, and I watched her make the crust, and the whole time I'm like, she and I have very different approaches to baking. She has a it'll be fine approach where she's a little bit more cavalier. Okay, she's significantly more cavalier than I am. Like I am a put the flour in the cup, level the cup measurer. She is not. However, I have learned she does just fine. I'm watching her make this pie crust, and I have watched so much information about how to make pie crust. I've read so much about making pie crust. I have totally gotten myself to the point where I think you have to be a magician to make good pie crust. Guess what? You don't. Now, this is not to say that my daughter is not a lovely and talented human being, but she is 13 and she's made 2 pie crusts in her life, and both of them have been quite good. And so I'm watching her make this pie crust, and I'm like, oh gosh, that is so wrong. Oh, that's not right. Oh, that doesn't look right. But I'm just, holding back. I'm trying not to control. Just trying to remove myself from that behavior, even though it's very hard sometimes. I fail frequently. But this was a good exercise, and so I was like, oh my gosh. And so I'm also like, we have 25 pounds of peaches. Okay, by that time we have like 13 pounds of peaches. So like, not a big deal, not a big deal. And even if it's like not the most amazing pie crust ever, it'll be a peach pie. It'll be wonderful. Totally a good pie crust. Even though, like, there was a substitution involved. We did not have sour cream in our, I thought we had yogurt, full fat yogurt, but it had gotten frozen. We have a new refrigerator that I'm still trying to kind of figure out a little bit. Our old refrigerator died. It was very sad. Thank you, patrons of the podcast. Anyway, that yogurt had gotten frozen, and so it was weird. I've had frozen yogurt before and it's been fine, but this one got separated and it was funny. So there was like a cream cheese and water, which when she was mixing up the substitution, I was like, and like she used the max, whatever. There were so many things I was like, oh, that's not gonna work. I really need to remember. I mean, I was so good as a student being a B student, right? Like, I could see people that worked, 100 hours to get an A a week, or I could work like 40 hours and get a B, and I was really okay with that. And so I need to remember that sometimes in life. Like, yeah, maybe if I had done the pie crust perfectly, exactly as like the 7,000 different pie crusts, by the way, and then somehow like pick the right one magically that we prefer versus, because it's a subjective thing. Like, it's food, it's subjective. Like, maybe if I had made 100 pie crusts and invested 900 hours and $7,000 in materials, because fruit's not cheap, for pies. Maybe then I would have had an A++ crust. Maybe, okay, no. Maybe if I had done all that, I would get an A crust. She's like, not researched at all, read the recipe, solid B+ crust. Solid. In fact, it was to me an A+ crust because I didn't even have to make it or clean up it after it. So, right. Just need to remember that. B. Shoot for the B. Come on. Shoot for the B. I'm usually really good at it, but sometimes I just forget. So yeah, that was a delicious pie crust. There were scraps. This is how I knew it was going to be amazing. There were scraps like she had trimmed. She had trimmed around it, so I took the scraps and just kind of patted them together into like a very rough circle. And we had some peach nectar or some nectarine ginger jam that actually is a little bit solid. Like I forgot when I made it that if you don't peel your nectarines, like the peel has a good amount of pectin in it. So the jam was a little bit solid. So I just put like I put a couple tablespoons of that in a pie crust circle. And then I just baked it on the sheet pan that I put under the pie for her. By the way, that's also a great idea since you can't cut the pie for like 7 hours after you make it. You should definitely make yourself a small hand pie for waiting. It was so good. What? So, and I was eating, I was like, how did this kid pull this off? And then I remembered, shoot for the B. But that was so delicious. It was wonderful. So now we are approaching the return of this story cycle too. I want to raise the garden. She learned how to make the peach pie. We made the hand pie. I'm going to raise the garden, plant a cunning garden. She's going to make pie. We're going to sell flowers and pie. It's probably could be like the best force for good we could ever combine for our lives. I'm thinking so. I think it's like the best good we could do for the world at this point. It would be pretty amazing. So yeah, that's on the list. It was nice to have somebody in the delusional fantasy with me. Usually she's just like, whatever. But this time she just totally came along with me. She saw how, oh my gosh, what is up? My menopausal ladies. What is up with the sweating? Oh, there's a Rin. Hi, Rin. We never get Rins. Hi. What is up with the sweating? I have never sweat at this level in my life. So part of it was because when I was out of the gardening, trying like with the point where I was like going to burn everything down, I came in and was just like completely sweat saturated, like in an insane way. And so I think she sympathized with me because I looked like I was about to burn a garden down. So she was in the fantasy with me. But really, Lo, what is up with the sweating, menopausal friends? It's insane. I'll be honest with you, it's inconvenient in that I do feel like I have to change my clothes multiple times. Like if I'm gonna go outside and I'm gonna do anything, not even outside, like right after we podcasted together last time. Okay, so confession, I broke down and bought a spin bike. This was before, by the way, quarantine. Because I really love riding my bicycle, but I don't always like to do it when it's really hot outside. Okay, I never like to do it when it's really hot outside. So there's only like this brief window when I get to enjoy riding a bike. And so I wanted to be able to ride my bike more often, even though it's not the same because I'm doing it in a basement, but it's still chemically similar to me. So I was like putting together a bicycle, which was not complicated. It only took about half an hour. And I was doing it in a basement, which was like 55 degrees, covered in sweat, saturated through my clothing. So it doesn't even have to be hot for me to sweat. But I feel like I've got to the place where I've like cut the sleeves off of my t-shirts. Because I just don't even have enough tank tops to like work through this summer. Is that crazy? What is up with the sweating? I will say this, although inconvenient because I feel like I have to change my clothes a million times a day, it is kind of amazingly cooling. Like, this is what sweat does. I didn't even know somehow before. Like, sweat is somehow different than it was before. And it is now actually quite cooling, which is very nice. But man, it's weird. Although it does induce sympathy in your family, which I appreciate. Do you know what I'm talking, ladies? It's crazy. I don't even know. What else do we need to talk about? Okay, thank you for your patience. I totally did that one. Did that. Oh, the peach truck, so good. Also, oh, this is another confession. I've discovered frozen biscuits. It's probably pretty dangerous. Biscuit scone texture is like high on my list of craveable textures. I actually don't crave that many foods. I crave textures, I think, more than foods. But biscuits are like high on the list. And luckily, biscuits are kind of a pain in the butt to make. They're not hard, but they're kind of messy, and you can't make two. Nobody else really likes biscuits in this house except me. So, if I'm going to make 8, I'm going to eat 8 because, I don't want to waste them because they're delicious and biscuity. But now I've discovered that there are frozen biscuits and they're quite good. And so, excuse me while I live my life of my cutting garden and my fruit compotes. I'm just all about cooking a little fruit and eating it on a biscuit. That's where I'm at. It is my COVID cure. Just gonna sit at my little quilted table where we're at today with my zinnias in a mason jar and my trusty mosquito bite pin at the ready. Part of the desire to burn the garden down is bug related. Did I tell you about? I told you about this last year, but if you're new, this is a crazy pin. It's called Bite Away, and I think it's German if I'm not mistaken. And it's a heat pin. And so if you have a mosquito bite, you put it on your hand, you push a button, and it beeps. It gets hot enough to kill the enzyme that makes you itchy. It has a setting for both children and adults. That's how many mosquito bites I get. I bought like a $60 pen to kill mosquito bites. To be honest with you, I really prefer the spoon, but this is quite convenient. The spoon is great because, like, lots of times when I get the mosquito bite, it's itching intensely before it actually shows me where it is on my skin. Like, before it reddens, it's itching a lot. So the spoon is nice because I can just generally put the spoon on that area and it'll do fine. Whereas this one is much more precise. I don't know if you can see, there's like that little circle in the middle there. You have to put that on the mosquito bite or it's not going to do anything for you. So sometimes I have to do a couple of times with the pin before, or I have to wait until it's very clear where the mosquito bite is. But it is so much more convenient than the spoon, and I'm also much less likely to literally burn myself. I'm saying the spoon and I'm not telling you if you don't know. If you put a spoon, like if you boil some water and put a spoon in it, let the spoon get really hot and then put it on your mosquito bite, it will also kill that. It'll denaturate the enzyme. I think that's what you say. It'll bust up the enzyme that makes you itchy. But you have to be really careful because if you put the spoon on and it's too hot, luckily, if you can't, you're like, ah, that's too hot, I can't stand it. But sometimes it itches so bad that your brain gets a little confused about whether you're feeling itch or heat, at least mine, and you can burn yourself. Luckily, that does kill the enzyme, but then you have a burn. Well, whatever. So anyway, so that was to say that we're at the table with my quilted tabletop. Yeah, We're with the quilted tabletop, the zinnias, the heat pen, the peach truck, the fruit compote, the biscuits. Sweating. Oh my goodness, though. This was an exciting thing. Okay, there's two things that have been really good for me. For one thing, I found out my library has this thing called RB Digital where you can check out basically every magazine ever. Okay, it's not true. But pretty much they have a gabillion magazines and all of the back issues. And from what I can tell, I don't even know if there's a limit on how many you can check out. So this has been such a treat. For one thing, I don't know what it is, but having access to magazines, even in a digital format, makes me feel very rich and very fancy. I think it's because magazines have always been something I've only gotten like as a treat, like either whether I've been sick or, you know, I've completed a really big project and I've always just, you know, bought one or two, and it's such just a treat. And I thought maybe it would be less exciting to not be able to touch the glossy magazine or smell the magazine smell. It totally works digitally. I still feel very rich and very pampered with all of these magazine options. Like, you can even like get the taste of home. I would never buy that magazine for myself, but I can totally check it out. So does your library also, they have Acorn TV on there. Watch the most recent season of Yorkshire Vet. I can't remember now what that show's called, but it's a great show about veterinarians in Yorkshire, like, you know, full on James Herriot, all creatures great and small style. They're modern vets and they're so cute. I'm telling you. Excuse me, sorry. Anyway, that has been a delight and a treat. Oh my gosh, the other delight and treat. I've been reading quite a bit. I've been reading some wonderful books. Oh, I've been reading this book called Hidden Valley Road. Inside the Mind of an American Family by Robert Kolker. And it's a book about this like very boomer generation family with 12 children, 6 of whom have schizophrenia. It feels deliciously like the book will eventually get to like how the family, like, and observing the family, and it helps with the science of schizophrenia as the book goes on. But right now we're still in the like earlier, like more, I will be honest with you, almost like voyeuristic pleasure of reading about another family kind of thing. Like, I don't know what it is, but it feels like it does feel like a guilty pleasure. I know that we're not really supposed to use that phrase anymore, but it does feel like that. But I'm going to be honest with you, it just feels really pleasant. Anyway, I just picked that up because it's right here. But I'm reading some really good books lately. I've gotten out of my cozy mystery relaxation reads, and so I've been listening to some really good stuff, and I'm very excited about it. We'll talk more about it maybe next time. But that was all to say, I am thinking, I've had a treading water a few weeks. Part of that treading water, though, which was basically like somebody giving me a life preserver for a little while, was Queer Eye Japan. It's been out forever. Somehow we haven't watched it. You gotta watch it if you haven't. I loved all 4 episodes, but my favorite was the first one. It was excuse me, the woman's name was Yoko Sakuma, and she was 57. And she runs a hospice out of her home. Did you watch it? We just need to talk about it. Like, I can't even tell you about it. I just want to talk about it with you and just talk about how happy I am that Yoko is in the world, because she is just such a light. And her personality was so beautiful. And like, I just want to knit her so many pointy hats, because she a couple of times had on the point, like, you know how I was obsessed with the Olga Jazzy Knits 2x2 brioche. I said, you know, like, you're like, no, I don't know. You mentioned it once, like 3 months ago. I know, I'm sorry. You know what I mean. But the Yoko, or the, sorry, the Olga Jazzy Knits has the like beautiful hat, Oru, I think is what it's called. That is a bit pointy. And it's, yeah, it's Oru. And it is so charming. It looks like this. This is how it looks on her beautiful face. So Yoko wears a couple hats that look kind of similar. And so all I want to do is like knit her beautiful colored, like bright robin's egg blue Oru hats, because she's so lovely. I am going to knit myself one though, and just like wear it and like think of how lovely she is in the world. She's so gorgeous. She both broke my heart and mended it. She was so lovely. And then at one point in the show, spoiler alert, I don't think it's a spoiler, but it kind of is. At one point in the show, she hugs her friend, who is like the person who nominated her for the show. And they've been friends for years, but they have never hugged one another. And it was so beautiful. And like they said something like, oh, we should hug more. Hugging is nice. And I was just like, oh. It was so beautiful. So that's been a really good part of my week. So I wanted to try to start telling you every time we talk, like one thing either that's been really occupying my thoughts or has had a big impact on me this week or since we've talked, and that was... There's lots of stuff in the episode about, like, she says that, in effect, is apparently a common thing in Japanese culture, which I was not aware of. Also, let me just discuss. Naomi Watanabe, who I did not know anything about. She's this, like, super darling. She's apparently, like, a superstar there in terms of, like, she does, like, a million different things. Like, she's an actress, she's a comedian, she's a performer, she does all of the things and is amazingly cute. And I want to make her pie because I have a huge crush on her. And her voice is amazing. And has made me be like, I need to speak Japanese. She's got this super low voice. And when she speaks, it's like, I don't understand the ASMR. Like, it's not something that works for me. But I could literally just listen to her talk. It is amazing. I have no idea. I've never spoken Japanese or have even been interested in learning Japanese. I heard her speak and I was like, where's the Rosetta Stone? I need to learn. Amazing. Going back to the episode though. So apparently there's this like fairly common phenomenon. That's not the right word for it, but of women of a certain age, particularly, or maybe like of a certain physical type that's not the ideal, saying that they are giving up on being a woman. And it's just like this signifier of like, I'm not in a place to invest all of this time, energy, whatever in this outward manifestation of what it is to be a woman. And like, that was such a powerful thing to talk about, like for me to listen to, and just to integrate into my own like work on like body neutrality and what that means to me, and like what it means to this in this different culture. And it was just super powerful and very, anyway, it's been in my week. And I hope that you either have watched it and can like say something back to me like, yes, and then she did this and I would have just smush her. I want to watch it again and like really sort of like, I feel like the first time I was just so much in love with her and her like presence that I was not watching it critically as much as I should have. But oh, so beautiful. I don't mean like critically like to be critical of, but just like I wasn't watching it thoughtfully because I was just like, I love her, that kind of way. So that's been my week. I think that's it. Yeah. So let's talk about some yarn stuff. How far are we in a million years? So spinning, I am spinning on these Nest Fiber Studio Nestlets, which are mixed fiber. And so I have 3 colors done. I have like, a really good olivey green and this very soft peachy pink that has, I think, maybe like linen or flax in it. It was very interesting to spin. I really liked it. And a very light dove gray, and then these guys. And what I'm going to do is I'm spinning them all like on the same bobbin without breaking, but I'm going to chain ply them and then separate them into colored skeins for color work, or, you know, just to have, for one thing, I just didn't want to decide what order to put them in. So I just said, all right, I'll just spin them this way and then I'll break them into skeins, and then they can either be color work or they can just go in a sequence of some sort. But that is what I'm spinning on. Fiber is very, Nest Fiber Studios always does a great job. Her fiber is always lovely to spin. But that's what I'm spinning on. I'm not really doing Tour de Fleece. I should, because every year I'm like, oh, I can't do Tour de Fleece because I'm getting ready for SSK, but I just haven't this year for some reason. But that's what I'm spinning. And then I finished some spinning. I think you may remember that a few weeks ago when Maryland Sheep and Wool was having their virtual festival, I purchased a Montaldale fleece. And so I spun that up, just a sample. Like I just carded a bat, I think just one bat, probably just one bat. So I just kind of wanted to see what it was like. It was really nice to spin. I really enjoyed spinning it. And I just did a chain ply just to kind of, you know, just to get an idea. And yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting just to kind of see. It's not particularly dynamic in the yarn that it is now. Like, it's fine. I like it. It has a good amount of springiness to it. So I think it's a down wool. So normally I would think I would knit like either socks or slippers or some sort of outerwear with it. And it feels good. It's actually, it's fairly soft. I would have no issue having this next to skin at all. So yeah, I'm excited. It was greasy. Like, I don't think I washed it completely. I just did one cycle of washing in the washing machine. So I just put everything in lingerie bags and did a cycle in the, I didn't do a full, I filled the washing machine with hot water, agitated it very briefly with Unicorn Power Scour, and then just let it sit for a while and then rinsed it. So it was still fairly, I think maybe I should have done 2 washes. But I actually enjoyed spinning it at that level of grease. But I definitely had to wash the finished skein a bit more. So I don't know, I'm not sure which way I'm going to go with that. If I'll wash it again or if I'll just spin it as it was, because it was pleasant to spin. So we'll see. No need to decide yet. Oh, I bite it. Yeah, it's just kind of a, it's, you know, it is what it is. It seems fine. And then I have finished crochet. I finished my, really? What was this called? What am I doing? Let's say, Foolproof. My crochet version of Louise Sass-Bangham's Foolproof. So I used a mashup of Church House Yarn and Tees, half a granny square shawl, and then Kalisha Ryan's Just Feel Festive shawl. Those are both free crochet patterns. And so what the Foolproof is a knit pattern where you knit basically a shawl triangle, and then you just continue on one side of it until you get half of the length of your cowl. And then you come back to the other side, so you come back to the other side of the triangle and knit this side of it, and then you join them together in a decreasing triangle. So I did a crochet one where I just did 2 triangles with a tail, essentially, and then joined them together. And here it is. Right? So you can see one of the triangles right there. How fun is that? So this is probably like a DK weight yarn that I spun from Hello Yarns, one of her patchwork quilts. And this is not the whole skein from that project, but yeah, I'm really pleased with how it turned out. It's about 72 inches in circumference, and it's just like a nice little crochet treat. It was super fun to work on, and it's a great way to use color, like long color changing, either self-striping or like a Zauber ball. Now I can't remember how you say that. Or like a Noro, or like if you're fancy a spin cycle, but you know, anything that's got like a big, like a long color change, hand spun, obviously. But you could also, if you wanted to do like a scrappy one, I think it would be great to do a scrappy one, just like you would do like a granny square blanket, scrappy style. Be a great way to use up scraps. And I think they would be cute presents, right? Super enjoyable. I'm pro this thing. So yeah, love it. I'm really pleased with how it turned out. Yeah, I guess that's all. And then crochet works in progress. I am still knitting on my granny straipe cardigan. It'll never end. Actually, the end is totally in sight. It really, really is. They've not seamed them together because I wasn't sure. But I have just some pins, some like light bulb stitch markers as my shoulder seams. So I have a body. What? And I have 2 sleeves that are getting pretty close to being done. Right. Oh my goodness. It's there, people. The finish line better be there because I don't have that much hand spun left. And I was planning on doing the button bands with this. Eek. No, I think I'll have enough. Because I am very close. You can see I'm very close to, and again, the shoulder is like a drop shoulder, so I'm very close to being done. Right. It's very homemade, but I still like it. Very enjoyable. And so I am loosely basing that pattern, that project, on a good vintage cardigan by Fran Morgan. But it doesn't go up to my size, and I'm doing quite a bit of modification, so it's loosely based on that one. I am using hand spun. That's actually fiber by Hello Yarns. I am using, for my solid colors, I have a Hip Strings Buoy, which is their like Manx. Anyway, it's a great blend. It's not merino-y soft, so if that's a problem for you, but it has a beautiful visual texture and an actual lovely texture. I really like it. And they offer this in both fingering weight and DK. Did I say it was Buoy? I don't know if I said that or not. Anyway, it's a really fun blend, and I highly enjoy it. This is the Urchin colorway, I think. And then I'm using 3 different colors of Leading Men Fiber Arts. This is their non-superwash fingering weight, so you get 436 yards for 100 grams. And it's Vengeance, Gothic Queen, and Heirloom are the colors. Aren't they beautiful together? Leading Fiber Arts does such a lovely job. So yeah, I'm really pleased with how it's working out. I'm not trying to match the sleeves to the body, but I am knitting and crocheting the sleeves at the same time. Partly that's because I'm definitely not using a pattern at all, and so I wanted them to be the same. And it's easier to do them at the same time than it is to try to keep track of what you're doing. But also I kind of wanted them to be somewhat similar to each other. To be honest with you, I don't think it's going to read like they would even read that different from one another no matter what. But just in case. But also because it's easier to not keep track of what you've done, but just to do the both at the same time. And again, crochet is great. You can just hold it up to your arm and be like, oh yeah, I need to increase again. Or, oh no, this is good. And then you can just hold it up to the sweater and be like, oh yeah, okay, I need another increase or 2 to get to the width of the sleeve, and then we're good. B student. It works out pretty good most of the time. And then the next thing I have to show you is actual knitting. And it is a pattern by Olga Jazzy. And it is called Coro. It's Koro. Japanese is definitely pronounced like as it's written. So Coro, maybe? Which means rolling or welting. And it is so... Oh. Ever since she released it, I've been like, ooh. The camera's kind of far away from me, but I hope you can see it. It's just gorgeous. Like so many things that she makes. So unique, so interesting. Has both a color and a texture that's really engaging. But it requires 4 skeins, so 2 skeins each of 2 colors of DK yarn, and I just didn't have it, and I'm really trying to work with what I've got at the moment. I definitely bought yarn for that hat though, because that Oru hat, because it's coming, and it might be bright yellow, I'm not sure. Anyway, so I wanted to knit it, but I was like, I wasn't sure what yarn to use, or so I decided that after I looked at the pattern, I realized I could make it a cowl. So, because it's charted directions, so that makes it so much easier. Thank goodness for charting. Makes it so much easier to determine, like, oh, can I just make this a rectangle? And like, so I can. So I have 2 skeins of, what's her name? Hedgehog fibers. This is like the film noir, and then I can't remember what this color is. I've left the tags in there, but this is her DK, and I've had it in stash for quite some time, just waiting for the right project. And so I decided that if I made a cowl with this beautiful texture in these yarns, right. I'm so excited about it. It is super fun to knit. This is not a, this is a very not complicated pattern, especially if you're just doing it in a rectangle. And yet look at the impact that it has. right? Isn't that fun? So as you can see from the yarns, the film noir is definitely a speckle. So I would prefer to have used two just semi-solids or solids, but at the same time I did want to use these yarns, and I love the texture of the yarn. It's super soft. I thought it'd be very squishy in the garter. The combination of garter and stockinette, I thought that would be lovely for a cowl. So I think it works. I don't think that the speckly nature of it has slightly got some variegation in it, but I think it's fine. But it certainly helps that the gray is more of a semi-solid. Anyway, I just love it. I wish you could feel how squishy it is, because you have a lot of slipped stitches, so it creates extra bulk in the fabric in certain places. Here's what the back looks like to give you an idea. So it has a lot of depth to the texture, which is super fun. So yeah, I'm really excited about it. I've really enjoyed it. It took a minute to sit down and figure out what I was doing, but it's very easy. It's very easy to follow for just TV knitting or what have you. So yeah, I really like it. And isn't it interesting how different it can look when you stretch it in different directions? I love that. Ugh. Her patterns are definitely, like, for me, they're both, Stephen West and Olga are both patterns where there needs to be like more for that first photo. Like, I'm like, I need to be able to touch them, see them in person, see other people's color interpretations, because once I do, then I want to knit all of their designs. That's how I feel for both of them. I was lucky enough to take a class from her last year at Super Summer Knit Together, and not only she was an excellent instructor, not just for it was a class where you definitely got more than the advertised price. You know what I mean? Like, there were lots of takeaways from her class, which I found really interesting. She's such a different approach to texture and knitting. You can take a class from her. I highly recommend it. She was super personable and enjoyable in her just personality and her presence. Where was I going with this? Oh, but then all of her designs are just so cool. And to see them in actual person, because a lot of them involve like motion and like how the knitwear occupies space and how it folds in on itself. And so to see them in person was just such a different experience. And it was like, I need to know all these things. So yeah, highly recommend. So then that is all of the stuff. So the last thing I'm going to do is talk about shameless self-promotion. So I have a shop update. So if you're not interested, I will see you later. I won't say anything else fun, I promise. But if you do want to stick around, there will be an update in the shop. It will be a pre-order update. So it's a limited pre-order just because I am a one-person show. But I think there'll be things there for a while. How about that? So it is a traditional pre-order. It's a 4 to 6 week pre-order because I will be ordering the fabric in so that I can get as many orders fulfilled as I can without bankrupting myself on fabric that may or may not sell. I really like these quite a lot. Usually if I'm offering a pre-order on something, it's because I really enjoy it and can foresee myself making 100 bags out of whatever it is. So I hope you like it too. These are all fabrics designed by Phoebe Wall, who I just really enjoy her work quite a lot. So here they are. So there'll be pre-orders beginning Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern, fatsquirrelfibers.com. And it'll be a 4 to 6 week window. I really try for the 4 weeks, but again, with social distancing and supply lines being very tentative at this point, I definitely want to make sure that, even with the 6 weeks, that's what I am aiming for, and that's what I don't anticipate having any problem with that. But please be aware that, I will do my best, but sometimes things are not in my control in terms of like getting supplies in. So thank you. I appreciate you trusting your money with me as a small business. But of course, if there's ever any problem, just let me know. That was a lot of me saying things. Here, let me show you the backs. So I have a sock size with strawberries and cherries and flowers and good things. So this is a size that I use for socks primarily, but also for single skein projects like hats, mittens, things like that. All of the bags will have a swivel lobster clasp, and it's typically in the fabric of the exterior. These are all lined with an unbleached drill, or in the case of the larger bags, sometimes they will be lined with an unbleached canvas, just depending on the heaviness of the outside fabric. But so this is a cotton twill, so it has a slight diagonal texture in the weave, but it's a great fabric. It definitely crunches down. You can iron it. And it's a pretty sturdy little bag. And then it's my Summer of Naked Lady bags. So I have a large wedge. This is a linen cotton blend. Tiny naked ladies in your garden. Oh my goodness, I'm glad I didn't burn my garden down. What if there are tiny naked ladies in my garden? I really am just going to pretend that tiny naked ladies are eating my tomatoes and not squirrels. How cute are they? Right? And then, so this is a cotton denim for the sweater and the Aran sweater size. What is happening? So they're both the same fabric. You just get a bigger bag. So large wedges I use for shawls or for like a color work project, like a mitten or something that's got multiple balls of yarn. You can also use it like if you're got to go knitting that you want like a pair of socks and a hat, like you want 2 different gauges of something for your hands. But it holds, a couple to 3 skeins and the project. Okay. So it's a nice size. Your zipper color may vary. Again, supply lines are an issue right now. My sweater size is what I use. I'm a size like 26, 28, pushing into 30. The sweater size I use for either a sweater that's in progress for myself, or if I'm doing like a fingering weight sweater, it will usually fit fine in a sweater size bag. Or like one of these like giant hokey locatelli shawls, or like, like a fade or something like that where you're having 3, 4, 5 skein project I use for my sweater bags. And then I have what's called an Aran sweater bag, which is a size bag that I use like as a sweater bag, like if I'm knitting a heavier weight, an Aran weight, a bulky weight, a worsted weight sweater for my bigger body. But it also works really well as a throw pillow, as an impromptu cat bed, or as just like a place where lots of projects live. If I can't decide what I'm working on at the time, I might put 3 or 4 different projects in here. In the Aran size. So you can see it's quite large, and then it has a pretty good sized gusset. Right? It's got like a 7-inch gusset. So, but do you not love this fabric? There's your little gentleman gnome, and then your little kind lady gnome. I'm all like, can I upholster something in this? So those will be in the shop. Also, I will have a very limited number. I had a little bit of extra super cute fat ladies and bikinis and bathing suits fabric. So there will be a few of those in the update. So, and I apologize, I would love to make more of those, but that fabric is out of, I mean, I got it actually at the end of last summer, and I had got it like from somebody who had just happened to have a bolt that they were holding back. So it's not available anywhere, but hopefully they'll reprint that fabric because it'd be lovely. But yeah, so that's all of that. Okay.
I forgot for a second.
Just a second. Sorry, somebody just needed to wash a bowl. Anyway, I hope you have silver koi fish moments. I hope when you're treading water, your legs don't get too tired. I hope somebody gives you a queer eye for the straight guy, Fab 5, donut flotation device. Go ahead, you're fine. She's just pouring cereal. It's noon 30, cereal for lunch. It's totally fine. It's fine. It's fine. Just tread your water, man. Just tread your water. And I'll talk to you next time. Bye.